Okay, welcome back. In this one, we're gonna work on getting our CICD platform working through Git Actions. If the name sounds familiar, it's because it is essentially a version of GitHub Actions that works for the Git platform. And so all of the syntax and everything is pretty fully compliant with GitHub Actions. If you already know GitHub Actions, uh, then you'll know how to use Git Actions with just a few caveats. And then if you don't know either of them, there's tons of documentation because there's the GitHub Actions documentation along with Git Actions. So essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to be adding a runner that we can launch, and it will accept our CI/CD jobs, and then execute all of our tests or builds or whatever you need. I like to do the usual run of commit code, and on a push it'll do unit tests, and upon unit tests it'll run a build, and upon the build it'll push to a container to a registry, and then once it's there, and then perhaps it will even go and deploy either through automated or a manual step. You can go in and deploy it out and then roll your infrastructure, and it can be as much or as little automated as you want it to be. So let's get it going. Um, what I need to do now is, again, this is the directory structure we're working with. I'm going to go into act, and I'm going to create a file here for a config file. If you don't have one or you don't want to use the one that I'm going to talk about here, you can actually run the Docker container and tell it to generate a config file, and you can just scrape that one out, and then uh, and that's how you get the contents of it. I'll just post the one that I have. So I'm going to create config.yaml, and then I'm actually going to also make a data directory. So the data directory is going to house all my actual runner data, and the config YAML I'll actually wire up in the compose file. So in this config.yaml, it's a lot of stuff. Tell you what, um, I got an idea. Let's do this. Docker run rm. Let's do. Let's see. Give me a second. I'll go ahead and show you how to generate this file. That's what I'm getting at here. We're gonna run git t. Actually, I'm gonna do docker exec it act runner latest. I think we're gonna launch act runner generate config. Yeah, that's fine. We'll do docker run. And that's what I thought. Just do bash. Instead, we'll override the entry point and go into bash. There we go. So we're going to run act runner generate config. So this is the actual config. This is how you would do it. It's a lot. I didn't want to copy and paste it, but that way you don't have to type everything that I had up there. So this is how you would do it. So just run the Docker container, go into Bash or something. You can do it another way, but just run generate config, and then I'm just going to copy all of this. I could have just run this and dumped it to a file. That would have worked just as well. Now I'll just paste this right into my config YAML. And I don't really know that there's much I need to do. Let's see. Log info, file, runner, envs. I'm not going to add any of those. The env file, I don't need that. Insecure, false, that's fine. The only thing I need to do is I need to tell to bolt onto the dev environment network, I think. Maybe not, because it will already be on the network. Let's see, directory, port, external server, network. Yep, there it is. That's the only configuration option I need to change. So network, we're going to give it the network name. So dev env underbar dev env. There we go. This way it doesn't create its own network. It'll actually bolt onto our existing network. That way the act runner can speak with Git itself and all the different components we want it to talk to. Because eventually we'll probably have this thing talk to SonarQube. We'll have this thing talk to all kinds of different services. I want to say that's probably all I need to do. Cache is cached. Do I need this to be privileged? I don't think so. No, it doesn't need to be privileged. Host. Yeah. Okay, so everything else is fine. All we gotta do is just add the network. And that's all we gotta do. Okay. For our compose, I'll go ahead and place it right in there. Once again, I will just paste it all in there and then go through it line by line. So here we have our profiles. There's an individual profile called act, and then the full profile if we want to turn the whole thing up. The image, act runner latest. Host name is act, the networks. The reason why I don't put an underbar dev env is because compose will automatically prefix any of my assets, resources with the name up top. For the volumes, again, we're going to bind mount our Docker socket. This will allow our act runner, which is a container itself, to launch other containers if it needs, which it will. That way we can do all of our unit testing and builds and all that kind of stuff. We can do that in their own Docker container so everything stays nice and sandboxed. We're going to directly bind mount the config file there and then the data to the data directory inside the container. We specify environment variables, the config file, our instance URL. The registration token is going to be a secret, so I'm going to copy that for a second. You can give it an arbitrary name if you want to. Same thing, restart unless stop depends on Git. The service has to be healthy. So that's fine. Let's add this to our environment like that. I'll say equals X because I'm going to come back and do that in a second. So all the technical stuff is done. We're going to go over to Git. I don't need that. That was at workspace. So we're going to go over to Git here. Actually, I'll just close that for now. I'm going to do like I did before with Coder. We're going to create a user for it and everything we need from there. So we're going to go to Identity Access, User Accounts, Actually, I don't need to do that with this one. I take that back. What we're going to do here is we're going to go in their site administration, and we're going to create a global runner. So you can create runners for individual users or organizations. You can create a global one, which is what we're doing here through site administration, or you can create a per project runner, whatever suits your needs. We're going to create a global one for ourselves, for all of our needs. So we're going to go to actions and then runners. We're going to create a new runner, and it's just going to give us a registration token, which we're going to copy. Then we'll go back to our environment file here for Docker and paste that in. So what that's going to do, under Act, it's going to pass this runner registration token. So when the Act runner launches, it's automatically going to register itself, and it knows how to talk to Git and the whole 9 yards. So now we're just going to say Docker compose profile act up-d. And if I do DCO logs follow act, and we can see that it registered itself successfully. So that's good. Go back over here and refresh this runners page, and we can actually see that we have the runner registered. It's online and it's currently idle. You can give it labels. So labels help your CI/CD jobs. If you're not familiar with Git actions, it helps them select the proper runners, because you can have runners that run on different images or on different hardware in different networks and all kinds of things that you want. These are just the default ones that it's using for this particular runner. It's running on Ubuntu. So you can define all that. For the sake of example, we're just going to go with the default stuff. So we actually have a runner online. I'm going to do a quick demo, just really quick. So we'll create a new repository, and we'll call this one act demo. Sure. Create the repository. I'm going to just do this straight from the UI to save a little bit of time. So I'll do a new file. So all of your Git actions workflows, and you can read up on how the whole system is organized, but essentially you're going to create a directory called .git and then a subdirectory of that called workflows. So each of these workflows is sort of like a pipeline, and then within there you're going to put jobs and so on and so forth. So I'll call this demo.yaml, and your triggers will determine which of these workflows fires based upon what criteria, and multiple ones could fire. So that's up to you. So in this YAML here, I have some pre-made. Oops. There we go. So this is the name of the workflow here. This is pretty much the default stuff that comes off the documentation, so it's nothing fancy. On push, this will be push for any branch. You can obviously, you know, push main or push development, whatever you want to do. As of the more recent versions of Git actions, workflow dispatch works now, and you can pass variable assignments and user source variables. This basically just presents a button where you can just click, hey, run this workflow ad hoc. But all this is really going to do is, so within this workflow, you can define multiple jobs. So this is the jobs. This particular job, that's the name of it. It runs on, that's the runner that it's going to run on, and these are the individual steps for this job. This one just does a bunch of echoes. This one will actually pull a pre-boxed actions workflow from GitHub. Checkout v4, this is to check out your project code. So it does that. You can see right here, you know, it clones the repository down and so forth. And then it's going to ls the files here. So I think I probably got a indentation problem there, but we'll find out real quick. So when I commit these changes, yeah, see, it's invalid. Line 7, it didn't like that. So that's fine. And obviously it's not going to run because it's got invalid syntax. So on line 7, that's because name, jobs, it probably needs to be double indented. I think that might be right. I don't know. Probably not. We'll find out. Yeah, I didn't like it. 13, did not find expected key. Yeah. I'm going to pause this real quick and then figure this out. Okay, we're going to see if this is the proper syntax. Cross our fingers. If in doubt, just just to go to the get the actions quick start and you'll figure it out there. What did it say? Line 9, Kent unmarshal. Yeah. So, let's see. Okay, once more with feeling. This had to be indented. So, and there we go. So it accepted at that time. So theoretically, since I did a push, it should set up the entire job. And we can see that it's doing whatever. It's pulling, it's cloning the actions, and it's going all the way down. So you can see what it's doing. It was triggered by a push event on a Linux server, and it shows you ref. So anyways, you can play around with this and stuff. This is a super basic job invocation that you can look around at. So that's all we're going to do for the moment on getting get the actions done. I encourage you to go and read up on it in the syntax. Uh, spend more time than I did on getting your syntax correct, and maybe turn off push as a trigger until you get the syntax worked out. But whatever, you get the idea. So now when you come back to just get T here, you get a little check mark showing that your latest pipeline run or your workflow run was a success, or it'll be a red X if it was broken. But anyways, you get the idea. So at this point now, you actually have remote development, and so being able to launch our workspace, what we can actually do now is start incorporating all the CI/CD and principles into our workflows. So once this is healthy, there we go. I can launch this. So what I'll do, come over here, maybe act demo. This might be a good one here. Go here, copy the URL. And we can do here, I can click that if I want to. That's from GitHub. But what I'll just do here is git clone. It's going to ask, I want to allow copying. So there we go. Now that I have this here, I'm going to, let's see, file, open folder, coder, act demo. And this will reset my context over to here. So here I am. I can see there's all my workflow. And let's just say if I want to do a new file and say readme.md, whatever. And, See, now you can see because I've cloned over my dot files, in case you're wondering, this bash aliases, see, has actually been cloned from my dot files repo, so all my aliases that I defined earlier are actually available now. So, uh, there's my git status. I can do GA and GC, and it's going to ask me for a commit message. We're going to say add readme, whatever. And git log. There we go. So git push origin main. This is what's nice about this one here. It actually already set my branches main because I cloned it from git, but what's nice here is once I authenticate the first time, I don't have to redo this every time. So let's open this. I should only have to do it really once. And now that I've done there, it's saved my my authentication tokens to my repository. So now I don't have to do that over and over again. Nice thing though, now that I've committed, I can actually come back to actions, and you can actually see that it ran my workflow. So this was a really basic one that's not really doing much of anything, but you can imagine you can run, PyTest, or you can do linting, you can do testing, you can do builds, which is a little bit more involved. Maybe I'll get into that a later video. But anyways, okay. I think the next one we're going to get into is going to be dependency management, kind of like Dependabot, but with Renovate. So we'll get into that one in the next video. All right, thanks. Bye.